You don't collapse all at once. You erode. Quietly. Gradually. In ways that are easy to ignore. Nothing happens to anyone that he is not fitted by nature to bear. Marcus Aurelius. You tell yourself you're trying. You tell yourself you're improving. You tell yourself you just need more time. But if you're honest, there are moments in your day where you know exactly what you should do, and you don't do it. Not because you can't, because you don't. And those moments are small, almost invisible. You wake up, and instead of starting with intention, you drift. You reach for distraction. You delay clarity. You soften the start of your day. It feels harmless. It feels like nothing. But that's where it begins. You sit down to do something important. Something that actually moves your life forward. And instead of starting immediately, you hesitate. You adjust things that don't matter. You shift your attention. You tell yourself you'll begin in a moment. That moment stretches. It always does. Until the action disappears completely, replaced by activity that looks productive, but changes nothing. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. And over time, this becomes your pattern. Not action. Avoidance disguised as preparation. Not progress. Movement without direction. Not discipline. Moments of effort surrounded by long periods of inaction. This is how you let yourself down. Not in obvious ways. In subtle ones. You don't break your life in one decision. You weaken it in hundreds of small ones. Daily. Repeatedly. You say you want more. More control. More discipline. More progress. But your actions don't match that. Not consistently. Not when it matters. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Epictetus. There's a gap between what you say and what you do. And that gap is where everything falls apart. Because every time you don't follow through, you send yourself a message. You teach yourself something. Not consciously, but effectively. I don't do what I say. I don't follow through. I don't hold my standard. And that becomes your identity. Not because it's true, because it's repeated. You lower expectations without realizing it. You stop demanding more from yourself. You accept less. You tolerate inconsistency. You allow patterns that you know should not exist. He who is not a good servant to himself will not be a good master. Seneca. And the most dangerous part is this. You justify it. You explain it. You soften it. I was tired. I'll do better tomorrow. It wasn't a big deal. But it is. Because those moments stack. They accumulate. They define you. You don't become disciplined by thinking about it. You become disciplined by acting like it. Consistently. Especially when it's inconvenient. Right now, you're not failing because you lack ability. You're failing because you're allowing patterns that work against you. Daily. And until you confront that directly, nothing changes. You can learn more. Plan more. Think more. It won't matter. Because the issue is not knowledge. It's execution. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius. This is where it starts. Awareness. Clear. Unfiltered. Uncomfortable. You see the moments where you fall short. You don't ignore them. You don't justify them. You recognize them. Because once you see it clearly, you can't pretend anymore. And that's what creates change. The 8 patterns destroying your standards. You don't lose discipline randomly. You lose it through patterns. Repeated. Predictable. Quiet. And because they're quiet, you've been allowing them. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Epictetus. You say you want control. You say you want consistency, but your daily behavior tells a different story. Not in obvious ways. In small patterns that repeat and slowly dismantle everything. We make them visible now. No distortion. No comfort. Just clarity. 1. You delay the start. This is where most of the damage happens. Not in quitting. In not beginning. You wake up with intention, but you don't act on it immediately. You give yourself space. Space turns into drift. You check something first. You scroll. You ease into the day. And just like that, you've lost control of the first hour. That matters more than you think. Because how you start sets the direction. A delayed start creates a reactive day. And a reactive day never produces focused output. You don't recover from a weak start easily. You carry it. 2. You replace action with preparation. You convince yourself you're moving forward, but you're not. You're arranging, organizing, thinking, planning. All of it feels productive, but none of it creates progress. Because progress requires execution, not preparation. And you stay in preparation longer than necessary, because it feels safe, controlled, predictable. No risk, no exposure, no possibility of failure, but also no growth. While we wait for life, life passes. Seneca. 3. You break your own word in small ways. Not dramatically, subtly. You say you'll start at a certain time. You don't. You say you'll finish something. You don't. You set a standard, and then lower it in the moment. It feels small, insignificant, but it's not. Because every time you do this, you weaken your own authority. You teach yourself that your word doesn't hold. And once that happens, nothing you plan carries weight. 4. You drift into distraction without resistance. You don't consciously decide to lose focus. You slide into it, gradually. One notification, one check, one moment of curiosity, and your attention shifts. Then it fragments. Then it disappears. You don't fight it. You allow it. And that's the issue. Because attention is not stable. It requires control. And when you don't actively hold it, it gets pulled away. Every time. 5. You stop when it becomes uncomfortable. This is where your progress breaks. Not at the beginning. In the middle. You start something. You gain momentum. And then resistance appears. The work becomes heavier. The focus becomes harder. And instead of pushing through, you step back. You pause. You shift to something easier. And the cycle resets. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Seneca. But only if you move through them, not around them. 6. You rely on how you feel. You don't always realize this, but it's there. If you feel focused, you work. If you feel distracted, you don't. If you feel motivated, you push. If you don't, you slow down. That creates instability, because feelings change constantly. And if your actions depend on them, your output becomes inconsistent. 7. You underestimate small failures. You think, it's just today. It's not a big deal. I'll fix it tomorrow. But repetition turns small failures into patterns. Patterns turn into identity. And identity determines everything. You don't become inconsistent overnight. You become inconsistent through repeated allowance. 8. You avoid honest self-assessment. At the end of the day, you don't fully confront what happened. You soften it. You focus on what you did, instead of what you avoided. You highlight effort, instead of examining gaps, because it's uncomfortable to be honest. But without that honesty, nothing changes. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Epictetus. Right now, these patterns are running automatically. You're not thinking about them. You're repeating them. And that's why they're dangerous. Because what runs automatically controls everything. But now you see them clearly, one by one. And once you see them, you can't ignore them. This is where control begins. Not in motivation. In awareness. Sharp. Accurate. Uncomfortable. Eliminate these patterns immediately. Awareness without action is useless. You've seen the patterns. You've recognized where you fall short. That means nothing. If you keep repeating them, do not be carried away by impressions, but say, "Wait for me a little, O impression." Epictetus. Because the patterns you've been running don't disappear on their own. They don't weaken with time. They strengthen with repetition. So if you want to change them, you don't reduce them. You replace them. Directly. Immediately. Without delay. We take each pattern and remove it at the root. Not gradually. Precisely. 1. You eliminate delayed starts. You don't ease into your day anymore. You don't warm up with distractions. You don't wait to feel ready. You start. Immediately. The moment you wake up. You move. You take one defined action. Something that creates direction. Not noise. Not comfort. Action. Because the first move of your day sets everything. If you delay, you drift. If you act, you lead. So you remove the delay completely. There is no gap anymore. Wake up, act. That's the rule. 2. You replace preparation with execution. You stop hiding behind setup. You stop organizing beyond necessity. You stop extending planning. You begin. Even if it's not perfect. Even if it feels incomplete. Because execution creates clarity, not preparation. You don't need a better plan. You need movement. While we wait for life, life passes. Seneca. 3. You restore your word. You say something. You do it. Immediately. No delay. No adjustment. No internal discussion. Because your word must carry weight. Not externally. Internally. If you don't trust yourself, nothing you build holds. So you rebuild that trust. Through action. Every time. 4. You cut off distraction at entry. Not after you've lost focus. Before. You don't allow the first shift. The first check. The first break in attention. Because once attention fragments, it's harder to recover. So you protect it at the source. Aggressively. You don't manage distractions. You remove them. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. And your thoughts follow your attention. 5. You move through discomfort without pause. You don't step back when things get hard. You don't slow down when resistance appears. You continue. At the same pace. Because stopping reinforces the pattern. Continuing breaks it. This is where most people fail. They start well, then stop when it matters. You don't. You hold. 6. You detach from feeling-based action. You act regardless of state. Focused or not. Motivated or not. Comfortable or not. Because your standard doesn't change. And if your standard doesn't change, your output stabilizes. Man conquers the world by conquering himself. Zeno of Citium. 7. You treat small failures as critical. You don't dismiss them. You don't minimize them. You correct them. Immediately. Because small failures grow. Unless you stop them early. You don't allow patterns to form. You break them at the start. 8. You enforce daily self-review. Not casually. Not loosely. Directly. At the end of the day, you look at your actions. Not what you intended. What you did. where you followed through, where you didn't. No distortion, no comfort, just truth. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Epictetus. This is how patterns disappear. Not through awareness, through replacement. Consistent, immediate, unavoidable. At first, it requires effort, attention, deliberate control. But over time, it becomes automatic, because repetition rewires behavior. You don't think about starting. You start. You don't think about focus. You hold it. You don't think about discipline. You act. That's the shift. From reaction to control. From inconsistency to structure. From intention to execution. Make it impossible to slip. You don't need more effort. You need fewer chances to fail. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Seneca. Right now, your environment, your timing, your structure still allow mistakes. Not intentionally, but consistently. You leave space, and that space becomes failure. So we eliminate space. You simplify everything, not your standards, your execution. Clear start time, clear task, clear finish. No ambiguity. Because ambiguity creates hesitation, and hesitation creates delay. You remove decision points, not reduce them. Remove them. You don't wake up and decide what to do. It's already defined. You don't sit down and figure it out. It's already set. Because every decision is a chance to drift. And you don't allow that anymore. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius. You don't think about what you should do. You follow what you've already committed to. Immediately, you design your environment for execution, not comfort. Everything around you either supports your action or gets removed. Distractions don't exist. Not because you're strong, because they're gone. You control entry points, where failure begins. Your phone, your browser, your idle moments. That's where patterns start. So you close those entry points before they open. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. And your thoughts are shaped by what you allow in. So you filter aggressively. You shorten response time. A task appears. You act immediately, because delay creates space, and space allows old patterns to return. You pre-commit your actions before the moment arrives. You already know what you will do. There is no thinking required, no adjustment needed, no hesitation possible. You remove flexibility where it weakens you, not everywhere, where it matters. Your core actions, your key tasks, your daily structure, they don't change, they hold. He who is brave is free. Seneca. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. It's being able to follow through, without breaking your standard. You track execution, not casually, precisely. What was done, what was missed. No interpretation. No excuse, just data, because data exposes truth, and truth removes illusion. You correct immediately, not later, not tomorrow, now, because delay allows repetition, and repetition creates patterns. You eliminate recovery days, not in terms of rest, in terms of standards. Your output may vary, your standard does not. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Epictetus. This is how you make it impossible to slip. Not by trying harder. By removing every path that leads to failure. No distraction entry. No delayed start. No indefinida acción. No flexible standards. Everything is locked. Clear. Structured. Unavoidable. And once this is in place, you don't rely on discipline. You rely on design. Because the system carries you. Even when you don't feel like it. Even when you're tired. Even when your mind resists. That's when you know it's working. Not when it's easy. When it holds under pressure. Never let yourself down again. This is where everything becomes final. Not perfect. Final. Because perfection is not required. Consistency is. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Marcus Aurelius. You've seen the patterns. You've broken them. You've installed structure. You've removed the gaps. Now there is only one thing left. Who you decide to be. Because without that decision, everything you built remains temporary. And temporary discipline always fades. You are no longer someone who tries. You are someone who executes. That distinction matters more than anything. Because trying allows space for inconsistency. Execution removes it. You don't say, "I'll do my best." You say, "I will do what is required." And then you follow through. Every time. He who is not a good servant to himself will not be a good master. Seneca. You hold yourself accountable. Not emotionally. Structurally. You don't wait to feel responsible. You act responsibly. This is where most people break again. Not because they don't understand. Because they soften. They start allowing exceptions. Small ones. Almost invisible. It's fine today. It won't matter this time. And just like that, the pattern begins again. Quiet. Gradual. Destructive. You don't allow that. At all. Because you understand something now. The moment you lower your standard, you return to your old self. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius. You don't drift anymore. You don't slip. You don't fall into ease. Because those paths are no longer available to you. Not mentally. Not behaviorally. You don't need reminders. You don't need motivation. You don't need pressure. Because your identity holds. You wake up. And you act. You face resistance. And you move through it. You encounter distraction. And you remove it. That's your baseline now. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Epictetus. You don't prove this to others. You prove it through repetition. Daily. Consistent. Unbroken. And once this becomes your normal, everything stabilizes. Your results. Your focus. Your discipline. Because there is no variation. You don't have off days in terms of standards. You may feel different. Your output may shift. But your actions remain aligned. That's what makes this permanent. You don't need to restart. Because you never stop. This is where self-respect is built. Not through words. Through actions that match your standards. And once you trust yourself, everything changes. Because now, you know you will follow through. No matter what. He who is brave is free. Seneca. Freedom is knowing that nothing inside you can stop you from doing what needs to be done. That's where you are now. No hesitation. No inconsistency. No self-betrayal. You move forward. Every day. At the same level. And that's what separates you. Not effort. Not intensity. Consistency. If you made it this far, you already understand. So don't stop here. Subscribe to the Unbroken Protocol. And go to the next video. You are afraid to be alone. Because even with discipline, there is still one fear controlling your behavior more than you realize. And if you don't face it, it will limit everything you've built. See you in the next video.